How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the channel. This is Big Daddy Dave, and this is a how to use factories video here for Farming Simulator 25. And one thing that we have come accustomed to here on Farming Simulator is just getting our crops off of the field and then being able to utilize those crops for sales, for feed, whatever we need to use them for. Here in Farming Simulator 22, they introduced factories. And what factories do is they will take your product that you get from your fields or from whatever source you get them from, and you'll be able to then utilize them to create something else. So for an example, we could take the wheat from the field behind me there that's ready to harvest, get it off the field, and then take it down to the grain mill to make flour. So that's all kind of very relatively new, not to this game, but to the kind of premise behind Farming Simulator, is being able to utilize products to use to create other products, which is a really cool kind of function for this game. It really kind of creates a new dynamic feel to it, as well as makes it to where your product that you're getting off the field is actually more valuable because you're using it for downstream effects, and you're almost exponentially increasing its value. So just to kind of show off what you can expect to see, if you go to your map, and I'm on Zeelanka, this is my testing map, and if you go to your map, you'll see that you get all these various different screens here. Now you can look at your crop types, your growth, your soil composition, and then your hotspots. This is the one we want to focus on here, and we get to see things like vehicles, combines, trailers, tools, and workers. We also get the buildings for tip stations, loading stations, productions, which is what we're focusing here today, is the factories slash productions, animals, contracts, and others. So let's go ahead and take a look at just productions. If we just take a look at that, you can see all of these blue little highlighted areas on the map. These are all the factories slash productions that are available on this particular map. That will vary based on whatever map you're on. You can get the same production, you can get radically different productions. But if you want to look at specifically what productions are on your map, come down to this screen here, and this is your productions map, or this is your production screen. And you'll see up here at the top, you'll see available and owned. Well, available are all the productions that are kind of basic on the map. So we take a look, we can see we have the bakery, the biogas, the carpentry, cement factory, piano manufacturer, potato processing plant, preserved food factory, sawmill, soup factory, and spinnery. Let's go up to the bakery here and kind of break down what this screen shows us. So here in the middle of this screen, you'll see the products. This is what the production can actually produce. So in this case, the bakery can produce bread as well as cake. Those are the two things that it can produce as an output. Now, if we also take a look, we have two separate recipes that we can use in order to make breads. Same thing for cakes. And what that difference is, if we look on the far right side of the screen where it says recipe bread flour, we can take grain flour and produce flour from that. So we take 90 liters of grain flour and turn that into 45 liters of bread. But this one is a little bit different. We can take 68 liters of rice flour and make 45 liters of bread. So here you can see the kind of the difference both in volume and in the actual inputs versus outputs for this particular production. Now, if we focus at the top portion of the right side of the screen where it says outgoing products production, it'll tell you the status, the cycles per month, and the cost per month. What does all this mean? Well, the status is whether or not the production point is actually turned on, it's active, it's doing something. The cycles per month is the number of times it is going to run the recipe listed below. So in this case, it is going to run the recipe below 120 times. So it's going to take 90 times 120. That's how much product is going to be processed and put in, versus 120 times 45 for the amount coming out. So in this case, we'll get, let me bring up my calculator really fast. If we have 120 cycles per month and we multiply that by 90, that is going to be 10,800 liters of flour, of flour, grain flour in this case, that is going to be utilized to produce the product. And from that, you're going to get 45 times 120 5,400 liters of bread coming out. So it's one of those where you're going to be using more flour in than you're going to be getting product out, but you're going to be getting a much higher product based on its value. So if we take a look at the prices per 1,000, we can take a look and see the value that we can expect to see for bread. At its low point in August, we can expect a value of around $4,000 per 1,000 liters for bread, and in January, a value of almost $6,000 per 1,000 liters for bread. That's a pretty good payout. Now, let's take a look at the flour and see what we get from that. Let's see. Flour is, I went whizzing past it. There it is. Oh, look at that. So in August, in the same months, $1,686 per 1,000 liters for just our flour. So you can see the increase is nearly 4 times the amount out for the minimum value, and then $2,505 for the maximum price that we can expect to see in January. So it's one of those, you get almost 3 times the amount of value by making it into bread. It's a significant increase. Now, even though we're going to take the amount of flour that we have and almost reduce it by half, we're getting more than 3 or 4 times the amount of value out of the specific product that we get out of it. So it's worth going around and utilizing that stuff. Now, if we continuing to focus on the bakery itself, well, we need flour and we need rice flour in order to make bread, and we need various other inputs to make cake. You can see for the cakes, for this recipe, we need flour, sugar, milk, bottled, eggs, butter, strawberries to make cake. And then for this one, for rice flour, it's the same recipe, except it's changing out the the grain flour for rice flour. And the problem is, we can't even get to even the beginning stages of these recipes because, look at this, we have no grain mill on this map. So how do we combat that? How do we get the grain flour and the rice flour to be able to even start a bread recipe, let alone all the various other inputs for our cakes? Let's focus on the bread for right now. Well, you have to be able to install it. So if you go into the build menu and you go under factories here, you'll see all the various different factories that are available for us to install. And you can see we got things like biogas plants, we've got bakeries, cement factories, carpentry, cereal factory, dairies, grape processing units, and grain mills. That's what we're looking for when we're focused in on the bread. What this will take, and you can see down the bottom left-hand corner, the arrow pointing down, those are the inputs. Those are the things that it will take in, and then the up arrow are the outputs, the things that it'll put out from the factory. So in this case, it looks like it'll take wheat, rice, long grain rice, it'll take oats, barley, as well as sorghum. So those are all your various inputs, and then outputs are flour and rice flour. So those are kind of the ways to read this screen and how you're going to be able to use this screen to be able to kind of make the connections to downstream factories and products. But one thing that was introduced in Farming Simulator 25, which I think is a really cool concept, is $288,000. That's a lot of money to have, especially when you're first starting out a product, and especially when you're first starting out on a map. But if you scroll down to towards the bottom here, you'll start to see, whoa, $36,000. That's a big decrease. But look at that. This is for a bakery. This is for a farm style or smaller operation bakery. And for $36,000, that's far more achievable. And check this out. We have a grain mill here. Again, same inputs, same outputs. That's really cool, but it's like significantly less for this production chain for this factory than it is for the other one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place down both of the factories here. We're going to put this one, we'll put this one down over here. This is fine here. And then we'll go back up and we will place down the grain mill, which was, I passed by it right there. And we're going to put this one way over here. Yeah, something like that. It's going to do a lot of deforming of the ground and whatnot, but that's not the worst thing in the world. So what do we need to focus on for these particular productions? Well, we have an area that we can put in. So all of our inputs will go in where the dump trailer is right here. we have a wrench which will allow you to go into the menu from the map or from the world to be able to interact with the factory itself. And then we have a hazard box that is going to denote where the products are coming out from. Now if we go back to the other one over here, we have the same thing, except we don't have that kind of graded slat area, but instead we have a kind of hazard box area here with the dump trailer. That's going to be where we put in. Our output is going to be right here. And again, we have another wrench that we can interact with things. Now let's go into this screen again, because again, we have the available factories that were already kind of pre-installed onto the map, and then we have owned factories. These are the ones that we just put down. And again, we've got the small grain mill and the large grain mill. And if we just take a look at barley flour for just 1 second, you'll see the difference right off the bat at the recipes and specifically the cycles per month. If you look down the bottom right hand corner, you'll see production status and active, cycles per month 48. That's for the small one. If we go to the big one though, 480. So you are getting far more cycles per month than you would be with the small production chain here. So let's take a look at all the various stuff that we can make from the products here. So we can make flour from barley, oats, sorghum, and wheat. Those are the ones that we can actually produce flour from. But then we can get things like rice flour, and we get that from our long grain rice as well as our regular rice. Now, if you look at the far right-hand side, it says incoming materials. It shows you barley, long grain rice, oats, rice, sorghum, and wheat. And it gives you a denotion of how many liters you currently have versus the total amount of literage that can fit in the production chain itself. And then it gives you also outgoing products at the bottom there, where it shows you flour and rice flour. And again, number of liters that it has currently versus the number of liters it can hold. So that's a really big improvement compared to FS22, is that before it just showed you what you have in each of these categories, but it didn't tell you what you had in like in spatial comparison. How much can you hold? So you really were just reliant on the colored bar, the little red dot right now, for kind of gauging how much room you had. And again, if you scroll all the way down, you can see the recipe for each of these individual products here. So for wheat, we can produce from 5 liters of wheat, 4 liters of flour. If we use sorghum, you get 15 liters of sorghum in to 13 liters of flour out. So you can see all the various different changes here. Now, oats is going to be your best bet here. You get 15 liters of oats in, and you get 15 liters of flour out. It's a 1-to-1 ratio. So that's actually really nice because you're getting a more flatline recipe for this one here, and you can see kind of the benefits of each individual recipe. Again, you go from 30 liters of barley to 22 liters of flour. So kind of make sure you're paying attention to this, because you might have something, if you are planting and you're using this particular production, you might have something that will be better utilized downstream for your product, rather than just going, oh, I'm just going to throw in rice, or I'm just going to throw in wheat, or I'm just going to throw in barley. Well, okay, I'm going to be able to get 1-to-1 ratio for our oats. So maybe I wait a couple months to plant and then plant the oats, rather than just slamming home some wheat or some barley right when you're able to do it right away. So those are all kind of things to kind of think about when doing such things. Now, again, I've got a big old trailer full of wheat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and load into both of the production points. I've got about 12,000 liters of, well, I got 24,000 liters. I can load about 12,000 liters into each of the productions here. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll go across the street. And as we pull in here, gonna have to hop the hill. Yeehaw! Alright, so it says we can dump in, so let's go ahead and do that. And like I said, I'm gonna put in about 12,000 liters. Right there. Close enough. So it's gonna be about 11,000 and some change. And then we're gonna go over here. And dump in right here. Alright, perfect. Let's pull this up out of the way. Now, if I go run back over and I click on the wrench here, just like so, you'll see that now we show 12,624 liters of wheat in the small mill, which is exactly what we expect, and 11,375 liters in the big mill. Again, exactly what we expect. So again, if we look at the kind of cycles per month and the recipes and all this stuff, let's go down to our wheats for both of these production chains. Oh, and doesn't actually hold like that. Okay, well, we'll start with the with this one here, the small mill. We will get for our wheat 252 cycles per month for our wheat, which means if we do the calculations, 252 and times that by 5 liters of wheat, in 1 month we'll process 1,260 liters of wheat and turn that into flour, and that's going to give us an output in 1 month times 252 of 1,008 liters of flour. So that's what this will produce in 1 month's time. And then here on this recipe, we have 2,520 cycles per month for the large factory. So it's going to be significantly higher. So 2,520, multiply that by 5 liters of wheat. We go from the original, which was just over, I think, 1,200 liters of wheat going in, to 12,600 liters. So in 1 month's time, we're going to be able to process all the wheat that we just put into this factory, all of it in 1 month. Now, to be able to do that same feat here, we're going to basically take about 12 months. Let's see. 252, multiply that again by 5. 1,260. So essentially, we're going to take about 10-ish months to do the same amount of work that the large factory is going to be able to do with the small factory. So it's going to be, how much money are you going to have on hand? Do you want to wait and kind of wait until you get enough money on hand to be able to purchase the big factory so you can get all your stuff like processed very, very quickly? Or are you going to just kind of go low and slow kind of thing with the small mill here? So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to go ahead and skip 1 month. I'm going to go ahead and go ahead and skip 1 month to be able to show what the final output is, and then kind of show what the factories have done up until this point. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. We will go until 12 o'clock the next day, because it's about 12:54 right now. So we'll go almost 1 full month. All right, so we are now in September. We have gone 1 full month with all of our production chains, and we should get... Oh, no. I forgot to turn them on. Silly, silly, silly. Let's turn these on. So to activate these, go under the recipe, click the A button. I think it's X on PlayStations, and you'll be able to turn on the recipe. So kind of a silly moment there, but now you can see that instead of inactive, what was shown before, now it's showing running. If you have a recipe running that isn't produced by something, you don't have anything in as an input. So using sorghum as the example here, if we click on this, you'll see you get a red exclamation point there under the recipe, and then eventually materials missing as the status. So that's something to kind of pay attention to and look out for, because what's going to happen is it's still going to cost you money. It's going to cost you $24 per month by leaving this running. So if you run out of product, turn it off, because there's no sense in letting it run and costing you money. And again, that cost per month is compounding. So in this case, we've got $24 a month for this particular process. We will have a $24 for this process, and any other subsequent process, we will also have more money. And you can see also that the long grain rice here is actually going to cost us $48 a month rather than the $24 for everything else. So something to pay attention to, and because that money will add up rather quickly if you're not paying attention. So let's go ahead and turn this off. We don't need this running. Let me just confirm that both of them are active. And now let's go 1 more month. And actually works out a little bit better because we're going to have very close, like I think within 1 minute in game time of being 1 full month. So we'll see the actual like process between the two. And check it out. We've got a pallet right there. That is 1 full pallet of wheat. That will hold 1,000 liters of wheat here. And if we go into the factory, you'll see that we are storing 6 liters of wheat in the factory itself. So as we continue to process, we will produce more and more, and it will start holding. Now, it looks like it might have room for 1 more pallet here before it will actually start storing in the actual factory itself. So you'll have 2,000 liters of actual produced product outside of the factory, and then it will hold an extra 60,000 liters inside the factory. So it's just not visible. But now let's run over to the big factory, because that's where we're going to see the biggest difference. This should have processed everything here that we'd put into it. It had almost 12,000 liters. It should have gotten through it all. Now we can kind of go right next to it. You can see all those products right there. Yeah, check that out. 207 liters of flour with materials missing for wheat. So it's processed all the wheat. We have nothing left in here. And we've got what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pallets of flour here. Yeah, we've got everything processed. This is absolutely perfect. If we go inside the factory just real quick, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. 0 liters of wheat, and it's storing 207 liters towards the next pallet. Because we do have room for another pallet to spawn, as you can see. We've got actually probably a whole row and another pallet that can spawn in this row here. I mean, we've got plenty of room that can be held here. So really, you can see that we've got the 9,000 liters here. It looks like this will hold 15,000 liters in the kind of production bay, and then it'll hold an additional 60,000 liters inside the factory, kind of phantomly. So all in all, that's kind of how these production chains work, is that it just takes the individual product that you get off your fields, or however you get that product, and then it produces something else of higher value. Now again, we used wheat. Let's kind of walk through the chain here. If we go here, let's go all the way down to wheat, and we'll kind of see how everything kind of lines up. Okay, so wheat is right here. Now check that out. If we were to just sell our wheat directly off the field, at the low point in August, it'd be $834 per 1,000 liters. And then in the highest point, $1,224 dollars per 1,000 liters. So that right there shows you that that's kind of your base price for just the product itself. But if we because we turned it into flour, and we've got now several thousand liters of each, let's find where flour is in the list, which is right here. Now look at that. Our lowest price for flour is higher by almost $500 than our high price for our wheat. So that's really cool. So our low price in August is $1,718. Our highest price is $2,505 in January. So that right there is the reason why you go ahead and start the production chain process, is because you exponentially increased your payouts. And if you're really smart about it, you can utilize the recipes to really kind of maximize what kind of product you have in your outputs. So again, using that kind of recipe screen, you'll see what kind of products will actually produce the best amount of your output. So in this case, oats is a 1-to-1 ratio. You're not losing anything, and thus if you can get your oats here, you're going to produce a 1-to-1 ratio and be able to go from there. Now, if we take a look downstream, because again, we were kind of focusing in on flour here originally. No, I'm sorry, not flour, but bread. So we were at 1,718 as a low, 505 as a high. If we take a look at our bread here, look at that. 2,500 was the high. Now for bread, $4,057 for a low, almost $6,000 for a high. You're getting almost a 3x increase in both of the highs and lows. That's incredible. That's what the whole purpose behind the production chains is, to exponentially increase. And again, if you started with wheat, in the low point you're in the hundreds of dollars, and in bread you're in the thousands of dollars. Now, yes, the productions will reduce, and again, you've got to pay attention to how you are kind of managing this. But if we were in this screen and look at available items here, we would take 90 liters of the flour that we produced and make it into 45 liters of bread. So we're basically halving the recipe of flour in order to get to here, but we are basically 3 timesing the value of the product. So yeah, we're producing less bread, but we're producing a vastly more valuable product. And that's the whole point of the factories, is making sure that you're able to best utilize and get the best price out of your base game crops. So there we go. That is how you use factories here in Farming Simulator 25. And again, the recipes, the styles are endless, it seems. Again, we have biogas plants, we've got carpentry, cement factories, and every single one of these has their own unique stuff that they will produce. Again, looking at the cement factory, we can take stones. Stones are the inputs. That's the only thing that goes into them. And then you get these various different outputs like cement bricks, cement bags, and roofing plates. All of these will be produced, and you can utilize your stones or whatever kind of products that you have on hand for various different things. You can make pianos, you can do potato chips, you can do canned peas, jarred peas, kimchi, noodle soup, all these different styles of things that you can do, and each one of them is going to have their own unique recipe. Again, you got kimchi here, which you utilize your Napa cabbage, your garlic, your onions, and your peppers, and that will make you your kimchi. The sawmill, you can use wood in order to produce all these various different outputs, so on and so on and so forth. It's all the different stuff. And it's what's really cool too, something I want to point out, is it's not limited to what's coming out of the ground for your productions. You have things that you can utilize outside of things that you grow from the fields. So yes, cotton, we can make fabric from cotton. That's something that we can do, but we can also use the wool from our sheep to make fabric. So again, we take from cotton a 9-to-3 to make fabric, to 9 liters of cotton in to 3 fabric out. And then from wool, you're getting a 3 liters of wool in to 1 liter of fabric out. So it's essentially the same recipe. It's just using different values. So it's just going to produce it just a little bit quicker when using the, well, not even a little bit, because also the cycles per month is doubled. So you're going to produce a lot more fabric with cotton than you are with wool, but you're going to get the same output. It's just one's going to take longer than the other. That's basically what this one boils down to. And like I said, it's all just kind of how you want to proceed with the various styles of gameplay. If all you're interested in doing is getting stuff out of the ground, then you don't have to do this. This is all kind of stuff that's in the background, and you can utilize it if you choose. But if you do choose to utilize it, it can really, really increase the values. Again, taking one last look at fabrics here. If we were to take a look at the prices per 1,000, let's focus in on the cotton, because that's right down here. Cotton is a very, very valuable product. Our lows, $3,334 per 1,000 liters in August versus $4,170 high in March. That's pretty good. But if we go down to fabrics, look at that. Look at that increase. We went from $3,300 per low to $9,000 per low. So we're essentially tripling the value for our product, which makes sense because for cotton, we basically went down by a third for the output. So that all kind of adds up and makes sense. But check out the value for cotton at the high end, $4,000 per 1,000 liters, right? And high end, 15,000 liters. That is actually just a little bit better. So if you were to take this and go up by 3 for a 12, you're actually getting a far bigger high point for your fabric. That's pretty good. You're actually getting a little bit more money if you're to wait until May for fabric if you process your cotton. So that's the whole point. That is why we utilize the factories, and it's basically how you go about doing it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please show me by liking, sharing, subscribing, following, commenting, doing all the things. The algorithms enjoy you doing this, shows you're engaged with this channel, enjoying the content. And that being said, I hope you have a fantastic day. Take care.